Thank you all for joining us for our SICSS-Howard-Mathematica Roundtable entitled Getting the Most Out of the SICSS-Howard-Mathematica Experience. I'm proud to introduce Ezinne Nwankwo, one of our SICSS-Howard-Mathematica staff members, who will introduce our speakers.
Hi, thank you so much, Nanette. My name is Ezinne. I'm a rising third-year PhD student at UC Berkeley and a SICSS-HM staff member. So welcome to the roundtable discussion with SICSS-Howard-Mathematica alumni of color. During these Real Talk roundtables, our hosting organizations, Howard-Mathematica and SICSS, discuss the experiences of people of color within their institutions and offer tips and tricks for success. So in the panel, in the case of our panel today, I'll be moderating a discussion between 5 of our alumni of color from 2021 and 2022 SICSS-Howard-Mathematica location. So I'll begin by introducing our panelists. So first up, we have Abiodun Atoloye, who is a assistant professor at the Department of Nutrition, Dietetics, and Food Science, Utah State University, with an interest in healthy and equitable communities. Her research examines the interactions between nutrition behavior, people's environment, and health promoting practices, programs, and policies. In her work, she is particularly interested in providing opportunities through a community-based participatory research approach for residents and key stakeholders to create data to identify neighborhood nutrition-related challenges, inform intervention, implementations, and policy change, as well as monitor changes in neighborhoods. So please welcome Abiodun. Thank you so much for being here. And then the next speaker we have is Troy Dildine, who's a current postdoctoral scholar at Stanford University School of Medicine with the Pain Medicine Division. His research aims for greater health equity by assessing pain expression and decision-making, and by providing interventions to improve pain assessment. Next, we have Daniel Lobo, who's a PhD student in the Department of Sociology at UC Berkeley. He studies how culture reproduces inequality in education and the labor market using full cycle experimental methods. He's also interested in the longitudinal effects of upward social mobility on one's relationship with the family and the community of origin. Daniel holds a BA in social studies with high honors from Harvard College. Next, we have Erika Meza, who's a PhD candidate, congrats, in epidemiology and transitional science at the University of California, San Francisco. Her work applies causal inference methods to evaluate social determinants of cognitive aging in older adults. Erika holds a BA in applied mathematics from Loyola Marymount University and an MPH from Columbia University. So thank you so much. And last but not least, we have Ibukun Osunbunmi, who's an assistant research professor, assessment and instructional specialist at Pennsylvania State University. He holds a bachelor's and master's degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. In high school, he discovered his passion for teaching as he effortlessly taught my peers seemingly complex concepts in STEM courses. In addition, a desire to provide equitable education for kids during their foundational years prompted him to co-found an elementary school with his mother, who has about 35 years teaching STEM courses in Nigeria. After that, he decided to pursue a doctoral degree in engineering education at Utah State University, since it blended his traditional engineering background and teaching passion. Before he started at the Leonhard Center, he worked as a postdoctoral research associate on a U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID-funded project at USU. As part of the USU team, he collaborated with the U.S. universities to develop a state-of-the-art water program curriculum for 5 Egyptian partner universities. The water program cut across engineering, science, and agricultural colleges. Thank you so much to all of our speakers, and you all have like incredible backgrounds. So super excited to hear about your experience and what drew you to SICSS. So thank you again for being here today. So we'll just jump right into questions. And so the first question, open to all, is what drew you to SICSS? Anybody can go first.
I can start, and hopefully people can hear me okay. I'm not mid-community cafe, but I think one of the things that first drew me was, first of all, we were sort of early in pandemic stages, and there's a lot of just being cooped in and not getting a lot of interaction with other colleagues or other people in social sciences. And so that was one thing, it was just like being able to connect with people. And that was particularly true for me. I had long COVID, so I was like stuck in my bedroom, siloed in my bedroom for like 6 months without being able to go out because I had roommates. And so it was very tough. But beyond that too, it's I like to apply more mathematical methods to some of the issues that I'm interested in related to health equity. And there aren't a lot of people that do that. And so this seemed like a really opportune space to interact with other people and create colleagues and collaborators with people that are interested in this space. Because unfortunately, at least in like the medicine and my focus is on pain, there aren't a lot of folks that are interested in that space. And so it's like trying to build your communities in other ways. And this is a great way to do that.
I can go next. So for me, looking back, I would say at the early phase of my education and professional journey, I've always been drawn to opportunities that would help me build on or learn new methodological approach in answering questions, research questions, and improving the work that I do. So, and at that point, I see SICSS as a big opportunity to have an add-on skill set, which I never had. And at the time the call for application came out, I think I was on a job talk trip, and I was so tired that day. And I think I saw the application a day prior to its closure, but I just, maybe because of my passion in wanting to like gain more skills, I just threw in my application before the deadline, and I was happy when I got selected to participate. So it was great, yeah, to have that opportunity that aligned with like my passion and skill set that I look forward to developing.
I can go next. Yeah, I think similar for me at the time, I had just finished my required coursework. And so I think in a PhD program, anything after that is more like independent learning and just kind of go out and teach yourself how to learn new things. So I think it was just a great opportunity to learn as a group and to just kind of continue training in a supportive, structured system. Also seeking that new methodology. So a lot of my training has been quantitative, but I've always been interested in mixed methodology. And so I thought this was a great opportunity to bring in the natural language processing methodology, or just how to incorporate text into some of the analysis that we do in public health also.
Daniel, you want to go next?
Sure. So I applied to SICSS, I guess it was my second year of grad school, and I just started a fellowship in computational social science. So I was very new to data science. I came into grad school with an interest in developing my sort of analytical toolkit. So I was just looking for more ways to gain skills, and had heard about SICSS through some folks in my department. And I was particularly excited to participate in SICSS-Howard just because as someone who is new to computational social science, I was observing that there weren't many folks who looked like us teaching these methods. So I think the opportunity to learn computational social science in a majority Black, pro-Black space is not an opportunity to be wasted. So I was very grateful for that as well.
Yeah, I always like to come in last, so don't ever mind. For me, it was like as a researcher, my paradigm is of a pragmatic research. So hearing about SICSS was like combining data science with social science. So that was a very big one for me. And I also came to know that, a lot of people they'll be in the early stage of career or perhaps PhD students. So it was also a time to like connect to other people who are in a similar state like I am, and were interested in really kind of the things that I was there to do. And like Danny also said, I was like, okay, it's for people of color primarily or things like that. It's also going to be like a space to like connect with people. Let's know how much of our experiences intersect. So that was really it for me. The idea of the big one was combining data science with social science and research. It was perhaps one of the first time I heard about that possibility.
Thank you all so much for sharing. Yeah, and I can imagine just how hard it is to learn these skills and then be that person in your respective departments as a person of color, kind of spearheading this weird field of computational science, social science, but it's a great field to be in, I think. So the next question is, so what has been your greatest challenges, biggest rewards for attending SICSS? And maybe we can start with Erika this time.
Sure. So I think the greatest challenges, both during the program and then afterwards, has been the time, like dedicating the time or finding the time to continue to practice as beyond that SICSS training. I think that I learned a lot during SICSS, but I also was in the middle of transitioning from collaborating on multiple projects to trying to carve out time for my own dissertation. And so I think just fitting in, practicing a lot of what we had learned during the intensive training was a little challenging. But in terms of the biggest rewards, it was definitely just the exposure to the new methodology. And then also, as a few have mentioned already, just this exposure to other people of color in academia. So for the methodology, just in public health research, there has been discussions around the methodologies that we use and how we can incorporate, for example, medical health records or notes to identify different social determinants of health. And so I had heard some of these words tossed around, but learning more about what's like under the hood of each of these methodologies was really rewarding. And then on the personal side, just hearing some of the personal stories of other people of color, both on their career challenges and successes, but also on the motivation behind their work. I think that's sometimes hard to find in our programs, or for those of us that are in predominantly white institutions. It's harder to connect with people on what the motivation of our research is. And so I think that also had a big impact.
I can jump right in. One of my greatest challenges was it was kind of a learning curve for me. A lot of times was, well, a lot of new things, and you have to process a lot of things within a very short period of time. But one of the things that really helped you was to like just gather as much as possible, and then later on decide what direction you want to like go into, and how you want to pick them one after the other. So challenges, the reward, it kind of exposed me. Another challenge is, up until now, I've not seen somebody in my field do that. So the only person I collaborate with in my field is somebody outside of my field, and the person that's part of the panel, Abiodun Atoloye. So, you have to have people in the same field trying to collaborate and to have conversations. But sometimes when you say some of those things to some of my colleagues, they don't even know what it is up to now. So kind of challenging to be able to like you're spearheading that space in your field and you're thinking through it. But it also has an advantage to it. That means whatever you bring out, you become a leader or a voice in that particular space that you are covering as for yourself. But doing that alone without people in your field, it's a little bit challenging. Rewarding, it's, the territories are like uncharted, exposure to possibilities of maximizing the volume of data that we daily produce, day in, day out, understanding that you don't have to, looking at new ways to do things, leveraging the network for research. After the meeting, we've been having conversations with people I met, and then we've been talking about further researches and things like that. So that's big it for me.
Yeah, I can go on. I would say Erika touched on like the challenge, one of the challenges post-SICSS, because it has to do with finding time to use some of the skills. If you come across research, ideas that would help you make use of that skill, that's great. And Ibukun mentioned something about you having to find people with like minds whose research aligned. I would say while attending SICSS, that was challenging for me because we were having to like work with people that have like diverse research background. And although it was rewarding in a way because like Ibukun said, he has background in engineering, high in nutrition, and we were presented with opportunity to come up with a research idea that would like blend everybody's expertise together. So that's kind of helped us in doing teamwork and in collaborating, even in that kind of scenario. And as a researcher, I see this playing out every day because now research is like encouraging multidisciplinary, so I would say that I took that away from participating in SICSS, having to work with people from different research backgrounds, although it was challenging at the beginning because we had to come up with an idea in a short time, while on the hot seat. So, but it was rewarding still.
I can pick up on that. I think my greatest challenge was figuring out what I wanted to get out of my SICSS experience. And I think it was partly because I just came in so like early in my program. I still hadn't really figured out what I was doing in general. So like, for example, I remember when they let us know that they had like grant funding available for projects and were like encouraging us to collaborate and pitch a project. I just remember like not expecting that and like frantically coming up with a proposal and actually getting some funding, but ultimately not taking the funding because I realized this isn't actually a project that I cared that much about. I was just trying to take advantage of the opportunity. So I guess on that, I would say to just take the time to figure out what you want to get out of this experience. And it can be like, there's a number of wonderful things that come out of this experience. So it doesn't have to be everything. It doesn't have to be the biggest thing, but just something that you can focus on during your time. And then in terms of the greatest reward, it's probably just like the people. I thought there were some amazing folks in my cohort that it was nice to be able to get to know a little bit. And it's nice to know that you have this network of people to draw upon whenever you're ready, even if you're not ready by the end of the experience.
All right, and I guess I'll start by giving like a sort of non-serious answer for the challenge in that I think I was back on the West Coast, like helping with family during SICSS, and so it was like also waking up early for the full program. I'm like, I'm still on the West Coast, and it's not that early today, but just the logistics of it. And especially too at the time we were still sort of in pandemic mode and a lot of remote stuff, and I think a lot of us, at least I, didn't have like a full regiment schedule, and so it was like, oh, okay, I've got to do this every day, be up, ready, and like engaged. But then I think like others have touched on too, is the learning lots of methods. I think was really rewarding. I think I was definitely made aware of quite a few different methodologies that I wasn't aware of before SICSS. And so I really took that to heart, and I've used a couple of those things that I've learned since then. And as others have touched too, it's just building network, finding lots of great people through this program, and really being able to capitalize on that. I mean, I'm still in contact with quite a few people from our SICSS in 2021, and still collaborating, and so I really appreciate that.
That's awesome. No, thank you all for sharing. My next question has to do with like your connections and how you maintain them, but I do want to mention to participants to start thinking of their questions. I have about 2 more questions left to ask, but would love to like leave ample time for you all to ask questions of our panelists. So start thinking, start raising your hands and getting in line so we can get to all of your questions. But for my next question, I wanted to ask, how did you all maintain connections with your collaborators and just like generally leverage your SICSS experience and community after this program had ended?
I mean, I was gonna say I can continue after sort of making my note of the rewards. So yeah, we were still interested in the project that we did together through SICSS. I think, I don't know if it's still happening each year, but kind of culminating with a larger project and presenting it. And we continue to stay interested in that and talk about how we could do next steps. And then I think, as Daniel mentioned, we applied for funding, we got funding, and we're undergoing data collection right now. So it's, we've sort of, you know, every month or 2, we set up Zoom meetings to try to check in on each other, but it doesn't also have to be just about like project or data. I mean, a lot of times too, I think we've cheered each other on through our careers and trajectories through academia. So it's like I transitioned to my postdoc. Others have, you know, graduated, finished their PhDs. It's been fun to be able to also support and cheer each other through that process.
Yeah, I can go next. So we got some funding, Ibukun and Benjamin. So we were like a 3-man group. At that point in time, we were meeting regularly to work on our project implementation. However, along the line, we came across some roadblocks, and we've been trying to like jump the hurdles. And in addition to that, we had some transitioning. You know, I transitioned from postdoc to assistant professor. Ibukun also did, you know, at different points in time. And I would say that has been challenging for us to like finish our work or even start a proper implementation. However, we still have interest in completing the work. I remember discussing with Ibukun, was it 2 weeks ago? And it was like, okay, well, I mean, in fall, we should get started and start meeting regularly again as we were before. I believe we are all now settled in our new position, and I believe we would move it forward starting in fall.
Yeah, pretty much just adding to what Abiodun just said, you know, collaboration is very good. And one of the things we're looking at actually is to make the fund we got from SICSS like a SIP grant. And once we have our result out of that, from my conversation with and other members of the group, who like thinking that we apply to like a bigger project because something we're really interested in, maybe like NSF or USAID. So it was this is kind of setting the pace as a seed fund. It's not been very easy, you know. I had like 2 transitioning, finished PhD, postdoc, assistant professor, and then each transition comes with each challenges, recycling a lot of things, but we've been able to manage it, and it's been good so far. One thing I would really appreciate that I did not do was to actually maintain communication with other folks who came for the workshop 2 years ago. But at least one thing that helped was everybody that were in the same team who won the grant together, we're still in contact. So I would just say that if you want to stay in contact, try to win a grant so you guys can have a group you're conversing with. because we're too much in a demand for things all around us that if something is not really keeping people together, the chances that they'll keep communicating is very, very low. But if you could find people with common goals, you can just blend together or bond together. Even if you're not on this project, you could decide to like maintain the relationship. Like I would like to maintain the relationship with the SICSS panelists here too.
Yes, I am one of those people that did not get funding and so have not had more of this frequent such check-ins with others. But I will say that, I mean, at the time our group started like a Slack channel, and we continued the humble brag, which came out of this group. And I think that's been nice, just to know what everyone has continued to do. And truly, like this, so many of the group was either finishing up the PhD or in the postdoc. And so to be able to see that transition again in a community of scholars of color has been very, very important for me, at least. And within that transition, like, yeah, the last couple of years, I have also been just invested in the PhD and looking forward to transitioning onto that postdoc stage. And so I think also moving forward, thinking more about how can I revisit some of the materials that we learned from SICSS and incorporate that into the next couple of years of research planning.
Yeah, I'm not collaborating with anyone from SICSS yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And then my last question, but hopefully we can open up to participants. So again, if you have any questions, start thinking of them, and you can start raising your hands. But what advice do you wish you were given as a SICSS attendee, and what advice would you give to current SICSS attendees? Yeah, can take some time to think, but I'm gonna ask Ibukun to go first. Oh, sorry, Nina.
Yeah, that's okay. That works. Advice to give attendees a lot of things, maybe on collaboration and awards or wherever it is. I would just say that maximize the opportunity. You know, there are little things like this that makes a difference in the field. And there'll be always needs like, okay, there's a lot that is coming. There's a lot of information that will be coming, but we also have to like make a decision of this is what I wanted to do. Because you discover that during the second week, we noticed that, okay, somebody will say, I want to do this project. Suddenly the person jumps away, and then eventually leaves without doing anything. So just decide, I'm going to stay with this project, and I'm going to like move it forward to the end, because truly it's not necessarily a project that might align completely with what you want to do. But the truth is, once you've used the tool once to effectively push a project to the end, that is when you can actually call yourself a master of the skill that you learned. Whatever you do theoretically, you will never learn it until you've used to push the project to the end. So even if you don't find a project that really aligns seamlessly with your research direction, I think it's going to be very good. Just stay with a project, pursue it to the end, apply for the funds. It's a lot of time, has really helped me. So when I was looking for position as postdoc and all those things like that, one of the things I used to like flaunt, never mind, like I won a grant from SICSS publication to do a computational social science, and I won't put the amount there. I'll just say a SICSS grant, It's $1,000, but it's me that I know it's $1,000, like. And that was the only grant as at then that I had won, You just finish your PhD, I won, oh, okay, interesting. Even for some time, when you put it on your CV that you won this grant, they'll say, okay, you really have prospect for winning grants in the future. So maximize the opportunity. There's going to be conflict of interest. Look at how you could merge it together, and use it also as an opportunity to also refine your research direction. for someone like me right now, one of my core research direction is broadening participation in STEM discipline. And really that's direction actually became refined and defined from SICSS. Like our project that was funded is titled Exploring Factors Influencing Retention of Black Immigrants in the United States. So working on the project actually gave me opportunity to like refine it and say, this is what I want to do. I want to improve minority participation, not just Blacks, in STEM, and that has really helped me to like chart a territory for myself in the field.
Yeah, I guess I can follow up similarly thinking about projects and like ways to move beyond the program. It is, I think, one, knowing what you're interested in and being able to think about trying to get other people interested in that topic, but also not being like too specific. I think that was something that our year, it was like, I think there were like 100 project like ideas, and it's just like, okay, everyone has very specific ideas about what they want to do. Maybe these 20 are interested in like health. Maybe we can hone in there. I guess part of it is not being too specific early on, just to see like who's interested in specific field or interest. And then the other thing too is, you know, you can always have your own angle on a project. So whether, you know, it's like adding in a questionnaire, if it's like a social science related kind of project or whatever it might be, there's ways to still be integrated in things and get things out of it that are particular interest to you. So not feeling like, okay, maybe the main focus of the project isn't what I wanted, but I can add elements to it that are gonna help me get to X, Y, and Z. Maybe it is like having a project, a seed project for like more funding later on. Then, so not inhibiting yourself to being parts of projects where you can add in your angles and not being too specific, I think is helpful in these earlier stages.
Yeah, I would say that in addition to coming with like a goal that you want to achieve or your key takeaways from SICSS program, you also need to be open-minded, because like we've all mentioned, there are lots of opportunities. It could range from collaboration. Aside the analytical skill, there are other things you could get, like Ibukun mentioned, getting the seed grant, which we never knew we were going to get at the beginning. So, but it was encouraging. I know SICSS kind of sow a seed for us, not just in terms of seed grants, but other professional development skill set that is needed to help us move forward on our career path. And I think that is a good thing to embrace as you're participating in this. And I would like to add that beyond SICSS, I also took a step in collaborating with other people. I know SICSS has like a group, is a hub on the website where you have a list of people that have worked in other centers before. So I reached out to this group that coordinated SICSS in Nigeria, and we worked together to put together a grant for Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and it was targeting women in low-middle income countries to help strengthening their modeling and analytical skill set on health issues. Although we did not get funded, but we were all interested in pushing that idea to another funding mechanism. And I say that was one key thing I took away, because I was able to go to the website and just search out people of similar interest that have done work in the particular location that I was interested in doing the research at. So
I would just echo what others have said, like definitely try to maximize the opportunities, one, engaging with the content. I know that it is a lot. I know that it is a busy week, but just spend the time this week. It's I think this was mentioned during the program. It really is what you put into it, right? Like you get what you invest in it. And I think like it's all things that you can come back to and then apply in your work when you're at the right stage. So definitely maximize the opportunity to engage with the content the week of. The collaborations, I think that is another big important part of it. As a PhD student, a lot of the work is independent time. Just use the time to collaborate with others and engage in that interdisciplinary space, because it is really cool to be in this setting where you have a lot of different disciplines coming together. And then the third one, the funding opportunities. I also didn't apply for it at the time. I had an NIH grant that was funding my dissertation, so I already had a very specific outline of what I was going to do. But if you have the opportunity to apply to grants, like that is also just great practice, and like someone mentioned, it's a great skill to have.
I think everybody said what I was going to say already, so I'll just quickly summarize. Just identify, like, I would say the smallest goal for yourself to make the program a success for you. So that could be like learning an R package. It could be like meeting one new person that you might collaborate with. So just like identifying that for yourself and working towards that. And then I really like this advice of like remembering that this is like you get out what you put in. Like Troy, I'm also on the West Coast, so like these were early mornings for me too, and some days I definitely wasn't feeling it. But just like pushing myself to turn my camera on, to be engaged, remembering that like Nanette was probably up a lot earlier than I was, because she's like making sure that this whole event is like running smoothly, and having empathy for her and for the rest of the staff who make this a success. I would just really encourage you to remember that.
Thanks so much for sharing. We'll start with Beth, who will be our first participant asking questions.
Hi, thanks for coming back and sharing your experiences. I guess my question is just, many of you all talked about the methodological training you received and the computational portion of it and the value of that. And I was wondering if you all had any experiences to share about sort of the social science part of it, whether that impacted your like use of theory, your understanding of theory, or interacting with folks from other disciplines. What was that like in terms of sort of combining disciplinary perspectives or literature, things like that? Thanks.
Anybody can.
I can do a quick. So I know, I definitely thought it was interesting getting perspectives, and I think it too is like I got a lot of it from the informal, like one-on-one, like quick chats. I can't remember what it was called, and it's still done every year, but that was like a great opportunity just to hear just like the breadth of everything that was being researched and how it's being researched across different disciplines. Yeah, the speed dating. I think that was a great opportunity for that, and I mean, a couple of items I was like, oh, I didn't even realize this was being researched, and I'm like very happy to hear that it is, and it at the very least added my research inquisition and like looking more into some of those things, even if I wasn't personally following up and doing the research myself. But in the regards of like collaborating, I will say like the collaborators I've built up are people that are still sort of in a similar-ish field to me. We're also like in the psychology, neuroscience kind of space. But that being said, the way that we kind of analyzed or thought about things was very different. And so there's one person that was like all about like qualitative type of research. And so we've added a lot of like questions in our experiment on like asking pre-text response and like utilizing some of those skills that we got from SICSS-2 and like semantics and like looking at words and all of that. And it's like I had not done any of that prior to SICSS. I was like, okay, this is like a new arena for me, a new space, but important. And especially too, like as I've moved on from the program, it's like yeah, how do we build up like the best questions? It's like knowing what people are thinking and how they're thinking about things and like utilizing that information. And so it's been a real bonus for me being able to utilize that and utilize those resources that other my collaborators from SICSS have. Well, I had a little bit more like a quant kind of side of things in the psych realm. And so we've kind of been able to integrate that together, which I've really appreciated.
Yeah, collaboration for us, Abiodun was talking about Benjamin, herself and myself, working together as a team. Collaboration for us was very good, in the sense that Abiodun had really used a lot of secondary data. I have not done that. My first exposure to that was actually in SICSS, like I said in my my biography, I'm a mechanical engineer, so I don't do those things. Before, my training was do experiment, and it was when I came into my PhD that I began to look into do social science research. And most of the things I did was to collect primary data. So SICSS was my first experience of trying to navigate the realm of secondary data to use. And Abiodun really had very good expertise with that. So she brought that in. And I picked up topic modeling from the, not an expert, but at least proficiently, I could do something from it. And then Benjamin was actually interested in using mass collaboration, or which he had some sort of skill set in it. So the three of us coming together and weaving in our strengths together really helped us push things forward and look at things from a broader perspective and be myopic, something that somebody would not have thought about, and they thought about it, and we were leveraging on each other's strengths, and we are like sharing ourselves that we can get it done.
All right. I guess we can go to the next question. So Mateo, I think you had the next question that you posted in the chat. Do you want to go ahead and read it out loud?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, how did you handle the tension, the problem, or I don't know if it's the correct word, maybe just the issue between doing research, a research design for the application and many applications, of course, and that research designs needs to use certain data, but also we have the possibility of not having access to that data. How can we handle that?
I can go, or if I understand what you're trying to say, I wouldn't know what you meant by access to data. Is it that the data is available, but you cannot access it, or that the data is not available, then you have to generate it? So whichever is the case, it's possible once there is a, okay, let me use mine as an example. So I was a PhD student, and we had to access a data, and we couldn't. Why? Because you have to be an assistant professor in a university to be able to access the data. And I know that if I tell my then advisor that in my final year of graduating, I'm doing another research, looking for another data, and that I need him to be my principal investigator, is like, I'm looking for trouble. So it was not a possibility for me. So in that way, that was part of the things that actually elongated our access to data. Like myself and Benjamin were like, no. Benjamin actually spoke to his advisor about being a PI on the project so that he could use him to access the data with his University of Berkeley, and then advisor said no. So I didn't even talk to my advisor about it. So because I knew that it's going to kind of, just want to finish well and then take it home. So if that is what you're saying, that you are a student and because of that, you cannot have an access to data because you have to have a PI from your university who must be an assistant professor who can do that, then that may be a problem. You might have to wait and graduate, or probably look for somebody in your team who could access the data on your behalf, and then you come on a sub-team. That is like a situation. The second situation is that you could adapt. If the data you need is not possible, there's something close to it that is possible. And I really doubt in a world of data that there is hardly no data that you want that is not possible. In the event where there is no data that is possible at all, then I think it's good you do some explorative study, maybe a qualitative study, and then begin to generate your data from there. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, I'll do a quick follow-up, but I think that point of like building collaborations is important. So say it's like a huge data set and there's someone who's part of a team that's in charge of that data set, maybe see if you can build a collaboration with them, let them know your interest in that data set, and maybe you can collaborate to be able to get access to the data in some weird way. Otherwise, I think another method is thinking about why you want access to that data, like what would that data help you answer, and whether it's possible for you to generate that data on your own. So if it's, I don't know, some kind of interesting population that you want to look at, see if it's possible to, I don't know, source that data, where it's like for me, like the collaboration I'm doing here, we're doing online studies, trying to collect data that doesn't exist yet. So in my situation, the data wasn't even available, so we're collecting it. But I mean, you're not, unless it's like very, very specific, there's usually ways around getting the data that you want. It's just a matter of sort of getting a little bit of funding or finding out ways to build it yourself.
Great. Thanks so much for those answers. I guess we can move on to the next question. Nina, do you want to go ahead and ask your question? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, speakers. So my question is, are there any specific resources or tools that you can recommend that you find useful in doing your research? Maybe you found it at SICSS or just in general. Perhaps things like Zotero or just other kinds of tools that you use to organize your data or manage or perhaps understand the concepts more, that kind of thing.
I can go with maybe a more, I don't think minor is the right word, but Stack Overflow. I'm assuming that y'all will become familiar with this when you start your sort of assignments. Anytime and this is more of a point about like as somebody who's new to data science, one of the first sort of things I realized was the different learning modality that it requires, in the sense of it was almost like in the beginning, especially because it's so easy to become confused, when you first get into R and you're trying to manipulate data, that I was wanting somebody to give me the answer on how to move forward, and realizing that so often the response was just Google it. And kind of being offended at that, but then eventually realizing, no, this is just how you do this. It's a much more student-driven process of just figuring out the answer at each sort of challenge point to push forward with your analysis. So for me, it's anytime I have an R question or I'm getting an error, I just Google it. And usually an answer is on Stack Overflow to help me figure out the solution. So I would just sort of maybe raise that as a concern for you, so that you can preemptively respond of this is going to be a lot of Googling and figuring things out on your own. And there are a lot of resources online to be able to do that for yourself with help from folks here.
Thanks, Daniel, for that response. I was about to say Google too. Another thing that helped during our participation was reaching out to the TAs. I believe that the provisions is made for this set too. Yeah, not being shy about anytime you are stuck, reaching out to them. I remember I was working on topic modeling, is that it, Ibukun? Yeah, we went, we really struggled with that on our own, but with the help of the RAs, we had to like meet different RAs to get, to get it resolved. And yeah, I think SICSS-Howard it's providing good resources for you to help troubleshoot any problem that you might come across while working on your project. So maximize what you have while in the event.
I'll just add to the Googling piece that learning how to narrow down your specific question and just knowing how to learn what specifically you're stuck on and search that specific thing. I think that's part of the learning process.
Thank you for sharing. So we'll have our last question from Kevin. And in addition to answering Kevin's question, if you all could maybe say something that you want to say to your future colleagues, to the SICSS participants, any like last words, that'd be great. So yeah, Kevin, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you for such a great panel. I learned a lot. The question that I have, I don't think anyone's really addressed this in terms of group assignments. So I just finished my PhD, and so the PhD is not, at least in econ, is not a really collaborative environment, right? It can be you're working with your advisor and stuff, but at least in my program, it wasn't very collaborative. And so now that I'm doing more projects and I'm collaborating, one thing I've found I've been interested to get your perspective is how do you determine who does what in a project, right? How do you go about like kind of finding the balance so that everyone is kind of contributing and then everyone's voice is being heard on a project?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question to ask, especially as you guys start to develop and figure out projects to be a part of. I think setting up expectations early on is great. So I don't know, something that I like to do with projects is like early on saying like, this is the ideal for like co-authorship. Like you should try to do this much, and like this is like you do XYZ, you'll be like first author or whatever. I mean, like setting things up early on so that people aren't kind of very upset later on if they're like not a part of a project or they're not where they thought they were going to be in terms of like authorship. There's a lot of, I don't know, politics is the wrong word, but a lot of emotions can get caught up in those environments, and it's not worth the struggle later on or the animosity that could happen later on. So I think setting that up early on is really important. And then for me, it's like I don't know, it's like always just staying in communication with each other and like having lots of communication. That's super important, at least for me, in terms of like moving beyond SICSS and like keeping collaborations. It's like keeping things on the calendar. Like we have meetings like every month just to like keep in chat with each other. Again, it doesn't have to always be about science or like moving a project forward, but it's like at least we're keeping in check with each other, with our lives or what's going on. And so I put that onus on all of you too, just like stay in communication with each other and like just put stuff on the books. Again, it doesn't have to be something like super heavy, like work focus heavy. It can just be like a, hey, this is like a breather time. I'm gonna like just kind of take my mind off things for a little bit and just chat with some of my SICSS folks. Build that in because I think that's super important just for longevity. And that'll be like my 2 cents. But I'll leave my contacts in the chat if people want to reach out to me later on. Maybe build some collaborations within like the health sphere if people have that interest. But it was really great meeting all of you. And I might have to hop off in a second to commute to my next meeting, but I appreciate being here.
Yeah, let me jump in. I would say in collaboration, you have to define the scope and then you have to identify action items. So what's the scope of the project and what are we doing? Once you can do that, the next thing that will happen is who does what. And I really, what I really appreciate is like, let people in the group volunteer, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And what people are going to decide to do when they choose to do something, they are more motivated to do it, and then they are more accountable to themselves to do it, right? And usually what people do aligns with their strength or their interest. So that's why we talk about in collaboration and just being there for one another, even if something is not moving, if you help. If somebody had a major event in their life, they got married or they had a child and they could not move forward, if you could help within that time, you know, we are not competing, we are collaborating, right? Takeaways, last word for people is throw yourself out there. I'll just say that if you can shut down these 2 weeks to learn all that you can learn, please shut everything down, because a lot is going to come out. So you want to maximize it and then you want to move on with it. So shut down every other thing. Keep your full focus to this, and probably 1 week after, try to like document everything that has been learned just as much as possible, and then file it away. Then while you have time later in the future to visit it and begin to like use those two going forward.
Yeah, any last words, Daniel, Abiodun, or Erika?
Yeah, I think getting to know people a little bit more in the team also helps. I think at the beginning, I was say proud to the event, you know. I think on the website, there's like bios of people, what they've done, their interest. So you kind of have an idea of the set of people that will be coming and what their expertise or interest is like. So, and I think during the meetings too, we have opportunity to like talk about like maybe previous approach of using research. And also that would guide you in knowing, okay, if we are coming up with this idea, research idea, you already know who has the skill set to do something like this, you know? So that also helping. I know you can do without continuing to like communicate on issues, but at least that would give you like a pre-knowledge of what you are coming into, even if you have different people within your group. So I think getting to know people more, yeah, you can just take some time to read their bios and okay, I think somebody is in health issue. It might not really be nutrition, but how can I like get stuff from what this person does and merge with the thing that I do? I know Ibukun, his own research is like, I would say at the other extreme, education, I'm doing nutrition, but one common interest we had is because we wanted to focus on like immigrants and refugees, which I do nutrition on. So that blended our work together and we were able to come up with, okay, education, you know, among these groups. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you all so much for sharing. Oh, yeah, sorry. It looks like we're at time. So just wanted to thank you again for sharing. Thank you all for watching. And just for more information on SICSS-Howard-Mathematica, please visit the website, follow us on social media, join our email list. Thank you all again, and hope you guys have a nice rest of your day and nice rest of the program.
Thank you, everybody. Please join me in thanking our participants in the panel.
Thank you all for watching. For more information on SICSS-Howard-Mathematica, visit our website, follow us on social media, and join our email list.